Good morning, everybody. It's your boy Kitario, and I'm back again for another episode of Christ and Comic Books. And today, we're going to be getting into Shonen Jump once again. We're going to be talking about some of the newer series that are coming out in Shonen Jump. One of them being Phantom Seer, and the other one being Ghost Reaper Girl. But before we get into any of that, let's remind the people what this channel is about. The purpose of this channel is to look into different types of comic books, anime series, TV shows, even movies, to identify that there is some remnant of Christ in those series. Not everything that you watch is simply evil because of the first thing that you see. Don't take it at face value. There's something deeper to be received and seen in some series. But there are indeed other series which you should just stay away from. But the purpose of this channel is to look deeper into certain type of manga, into comic books, their heroes, their villains, into different types of movies. And that's what we're looking at today with the Shonen Jump series. Would they be worth collecting? Would they be worth reading? Would they be worth spending the time to get caught up in? And what are the risks if you do? So let's talk about it. Now, our next new series of Shonen Jump is Ghost Reaper Girl, written by Akihisa Ikeida, who is also the creator of Rosario Vampire. Now, to give a little background, Rosario Vampire was a harem series where you have a main character who's the guy, and in going into go to school, he got on the wrong bus and got transported to a school for monsters. So you have vampires, werewolves, you have frost monsters, you had a list of monsters. It started out as a simple harem, going into being a very action-packed series. I personally recommend that when you're looking at the depth of what they put into that series. That one right there is that's a 3.5 out of 5 in my personal opinion. I highly recommend you go check that out. I don't recommend the anime as much as I recommend the manga because the anime really hypes on the harem, while the manga gets into both sides, where there's the action, the harem, and the love story. They coincide everything. They bring everything together in the manga. So read the manga by Akihisa Ikeida. Now, Akihisa Ikeida started this newer series being Ghost Reaper Girl. It turns out that that's really his type of thing, doing these cult hits where you're focusing on ghosts and spirits and monsters and stuff like that. He likes those types of things, so I guess he's sticking with his guns. So as we get into this series, you have a young lady known as Chloe Love. Chloe Love being she's actually in her 30s, but she comes across as young in appearance, lolly as they'll point out later. But she's trying to become a famous actress. So she's going to a producer to try and promote herself and say, hey, I can do this role. Let me do this role. I'm even good at playing like the small roles. She's trying to get her name out there. In an attempt to get her name out there, what ends up happening is this producer ends up, you see him talking to himself, having this inner dialogue. Another voice is speaking. He doesn't even know what voice this is. And he goes in what looks like he's making a move on this girl. But turns out that there is a ghost in him that's coming out and is wanting to possess her body because she has such a strong spirit. So being that she has a strong spirit, they want to take hold of her. You see the kind of similarities there between Phantom Seer and Phantom Seer and Riku. Chloe and Riku seem to have some similarities there. Just wanted to point that out, hence why I'm reviewing both of these. But she's getting assaulted. She defends herself, kicking him in the, I think kicked him in the balls, and and so he, of course, she flees in that moment. Everyone at work's like, oh my gosh, what happened? But then you, of course, learn of this ghost that's in him, and him also being able to manipulate multiple ghosts at once. Just a sidebar when we're talking, I guess you could say, demons and spirits. That made me instantly think of Legion in the Bible. The Legion who possessed the man that was on the beach side when Jesus was coming into town off the boat there. There was a man that was possessed by multiple spirits and tormented the guy. And it was called Legion, meaning that there were many of them. And that's what we kind of have happening in this moment. There are many of them in this, with this one thing that's trying to kind of possess Chloe Love. Now, in them coming to attempt to possess Chloe Love, we get introduced to Kai Iode, I think that's his name, Kai Iode. One thing to mention, Kai, who is a jailman, I guess you could say, in Hades. He's like a police officer. Hades being the hell that is the place that holds these ghosts. There was a jailbreak that seems to have taken place, and now several of them, and some of probably even the worst ones, are out in the world once again, and he is here to get them put back. But turns out that Kai is a huge fan of Chloe Love. She did one show back in her beginning days called Ghost Reaper Girl, which was not popular at all, of course, in the RWBY realm, but it seems like it was a huge hit for him and the spirits in Hades. But he, like I said, he is a jailkeeper. One thing to identify about Kai looks like Tsukune from Rosario Vampire. For some of those fans that I know of that like Rosario Vampire, that is going to be one thing that you will identify. Even him having a chain as his weapon, you're just like, instantly, this is Tsukune. Because when Tsukune was becoming a ghoul, they had to keep this chain on him to keep him from changing into a ghoul. Look, you want to know what they're talking about? I highly recommend you go check out Rosario Vampire if you want to get a better understanding. If you want to get started, I'll make sure to leave a link in the description so you guys can get started on the manga. And if you want to watch the anime, I'll leave a link for that as well. Now, getting back into Ghost Reaper Girl, one of the other things to point out too, not only is he a fan of Ghost Reaper Girl, he is a lolicon. So he's like fanboying over this girl, and also willing to protect her. But what he identifies there is, yeah, you got a strong spirit on you, that's why they want to possess you. And he even goes to, promote himself, hey, can I possess you? And she freaks out because she doesn't know what this world's about. She fights him off, she leaves, she goes onto a train. Of course, with this legion-like ghost, he's going about possessing multiple people, and they're going to try and attack her on the train. She attempts to fight her way through, but she almost gets possessed in this moment because she gets captured. Now, she, of course, in her mind is calling on Kai. Kai comes to her aid, using his chain to fight them off, but because it takes so much energy to be even in the physical form that he is, he's not able to fight all of them off by himself. Interestingly enough, his power focuses on fighting the ghosts, not fighting the people. So she goes to run away, but because of how much he was willing to help her, she didn't want to leave him high and dry. This leads into giving us a bit of her backstory, being that she was brought up on the streets. She was a street girl, not like in a provocative way, but in a fighting way. She had to fight to live. She had to eat out of trash cans to survive. She was brawling with guys as well as girls, just to keep herself alive. But she got sick and tired of that life, hence why she went into going into the modeling and acting career. She didn't want to live like that anymore. So she ends up helping Kai. Her and Kai, they end up fusing. I don't know if this was her mind when they fused. I don't know if it was his, but they end up transforming into that Ghost Reaper Girl look. Now the thing about Ghost Reaper Girl is she tags on the cliche of me being a girl in a manga or an anime, I gotta have a scythe. We know that's an extremely common thing because we find that with one of the girl from Seraph of the End. We find that to be common with Yuki from Vampire Knight. We find that to be common with RWBY from RWBY. They need scythes. So that's a common thing for petite girls in anime and manga series. They use a scythe. Now, granted, they make it look awesome. Like when you look at Maki and Soul Reaper, her and Soul's partnership, amazing, but she uses a scythe too. It's a common trend, and it's popular and when we're looking at Japanese manga. So they partner together, they fight them all, she's cutting them all down just to identify with the power. She's attacking the ghost, she's not attacking the person. So no human being is being hurt in the process of this, unless her herself is the one hitting them, which we will see. You do see her kick someone in the face, so that was kind of sad. But they fight them off, they defeat them, and now her and Kai, in a sense, have a friendship or partnership. So this leads into our next chapter, chapter 2. What happens in chapter 2 is they're introduced by this other character who's able to devour souls. Now, what I mean by devouring souls is, of course, they're coming to, this thing can not only eat human souls, because it's one thing to fuse with them, and it's another thing to devour them, because, of course, devouring them, you get more power. They're playing off a very common trend amongst the entirety of anime and manga, where you can devour a thing to become more powerful, or you can fuse with a thing to become more powerful. One thing or the other. They're using both sides of that spectrum. So this thing has been devouring ghosts. This thing has been devouring people's souls just to become stronger. But his hunger is insatiable. So with him showing up, he goes in to try and attack Chloe and feed on her, because like I said, she has a strong spirit or strong soul, so they want to feed on that. He's coming in to attack the house. Kai defends him like easily. As strong as this thing supposedly is, she defends it. So in defending Chloe, this thing leaves to try and go feed on something else to become stronger. Kai goes to explain this to Chloe, and in turn, Chloe actually feels sorrowful for him. And what Kai ended up explaining was that this type of soul is something that, in a sense, died hungry, and in it dying hungry, it became cursed. And in it becoming cursed, it's possessed by something else that makes its hunger insatiable, then in turn making it feed and feed and feed endlessly, because it'll never be filled. So what happens is she partners with Kai once again. They go out and they're fighting this creature. It goes into its more ghost-like form, which is almost feline, which reveals that this is actually the story of a cat and what it was like for him when it was alive, which led to it being cursed. To give this cat's backstory, this cat was, of course, a street cat. This cat had, was starving and was living with its brother, and even had to devour its brother to continue living, and because it wasn't getting any food even after that, it ate part of its own tail. It gives you really a sad story to this cat, and what Chloe ends up doing in response is Chloe ends up cutting off the cursed part. It was able to strictly attack the curse and not attack him, thus freeing him and saving him. And now at this moment he finally feels safe. And so what this leads into, this cat character comes to live with Chloe alongside Kai. Both of them want to be in servitude to Kai. That kind of leads to them butting heads, but at the same time it leads to them serving Chloe in this story. And so this already, right off the bat, reveals in some sense that this might lead into being a reverse harem. Remember, Rosario Vampire was your basic harem, main character guy, multiple female characters. Now we're getting where we have the female main character with multiple male characters. So we're getting that aspect in the story. And so this leads into, in the next chapter, chapter 3, where they're going to the main base for Kai. And what Kai uses to prompt for this, because like I said, she wants to be rich, she wants to have money, she doesn't want to go back to living on the streets like she used to. He's like, hey, you can go work at the bureau for Arkham Bullet, which is where he works. If you go to work there, then you can be making money that way. She's like, nah, I'm not interested. He's like, you can be making a lot of money, we get paid this. And she's like, oh yeah. And she's like, wow, you really want money. Like, you're really a greedy person. So they go to Arkham Bullet. And in going to Arkham Bullet, she's looking to sign up. As she's signing up, they reveal that a part of what Arkham Bullet has run into with these phantoms coming out, these ghosts, I keep mixing this up with Phantom Seer, I'm sorry, but with these ghosts coming out, these ghosts are revealing themselves more and more inside the world. And thus it's making that realm become evident, which is, of course, whenever they're talking about spirit realm stuff, they don't want the spirit realm to become just widespread known to all mankind. So they try to keep that on the low, but it's becoming more and more spread. And sadly, when they go to run her background, they have her live on social media doing her Ghost Reaper Girl things, attacking people. So they're getting a piece of that. And she, of course, she's in trouble for that, so they go to arrest her. Kai comes to her defense, but in the same token, she's excited because, hey, I'm popular on social media, so she's like freaking out because her video got 1 million views, and that's actually kind of sad. But Kai and the feline character, they go to her defense, fighting off everybody else. As strong as Kai is. Kai is so mad because he's feeling somewhat betrayed. And the standards of the Arkham Bullet are kind of, waning, being that they're willing to attack this girl for this reason. But this is all halted by another character who makes their introduction. We don't go forward at this point, we kind of stopped here. And the reason we stopped here is this kind of leads to the premise of she's going to, instead of becoming this famous actress, she's going to be famous for fighting off the ghosts that have been freed from Hades and in their imprisonment. And so that's the premise behind Ghost Reaper Girl. Now, if you ask me, I believe that Ghost Reaper Girl is worth the read. Partly because of my experience with Rosario Vampire. Rosario Vampire was an amazing storyline. This main character, somebody who's capable of nothing, becomes a character in a world where he's otherwise contributes nothing, becomes a powerhouse. He becomes an impact. He becomes a difference maker. He even has that influence on the female characters, making them want to be better than the monsters that they are. So I like that kind of premise. And the thing with Ghost Reaper Girl, it's similar almost in that regard, being that she's not going to let herself become what she once was. She keeps the values that she had from that experience, but she doesn't let that become her. And so being that now she's going into this position that's going to be a difference maker when we're talking about going out and fighting these creatures in the ghost realm, that's going to be a very interesting thing to point out. I want to see what she turns out being, if this is going to be as powerhouse as Rosario Vampire ended up being. So I hope you guys like this review. If you have any questions or if you want to know more about this series, I highly suggest that you sign up for the Shonen Jump mobile app. That's where I, of course, keep updated. It's only like $1.99 per month to be able to read all of the manga and the new chapters, the old chapters, the new series all coming out. So make sure that you sign up for Shonen Jump mobile app, as well as you can check again in the description where you can have a link for some of the series mentioned here that already have a book out. Thank you guys for joining me. Y'all have yourself a blessed one. Peace.